Hi, and welcome back to another edition of our Sunday School recap from this past week, December 8th, 2013. As you recall, if you've been studying along with us, we were in chapter 11, and we completed chapter 11 by discussing trichotomy, dichotomy, and monism. Remember, just a brief recap of trichotomy and dichotomy and monism puts us understanding that the trichotomist view is the view of one who believes in three separate, as one person in class said, almost a trinity of sorts within the makeup of man. And that would be the body, or mind, as some have argued, and soul and spirit. So you've got three separate parts. The dichotomist view takes soul and spirit and combines them into just one. So you have the body and soul/spirit, and then of course the monism view takes the man, or takes human, and puts them into just being one person. Body, soul, spirit, all that being one person, and soul and spirit being used to define parts of the person's makeup, but not separate entities or separate parts of that person's being. Genesis 2:7 pointed to the unity of man. Matthew 10:28 pointed to the division between the spiritual and the physical man. And we see that there is a difference in the spiritual and the physical, which helps us to understand that monism is not an acceptable viewpoint within the three different theologies of the makeup of man. Trichotomy and dichotomy, however, the trichotomist view, it seems to be more popular among the class. It seems to be more popular among certain evangelicals. However, certain reformists would point to a dichotomist view. Of course, Wayne Grudem does point to a dichotomist view, whereas more or less reformed theologians, or less reformed people who have less reformed theologies, would line up with a trichotomist view. And the final viewpoint is, of course, not important when it comes to salvation. So again, I encourage you to pray and ask God to make clear to you the truths, and upon such things He will, as Scripture says in Philippians, make them clear to you, living upon what we've already attained until such time. Coming up next week in your class, make sure you are reading chapter 12. Section A will most likely take the entire class as we discuss the Trinity. Hopefully I'll have what I find is a funny video to show you during class that day. I've posted it on my Facebook, so you can see it if you wish before then, in dealing with the discussions of the Trinity. It'll be a very interesting conversation, I'm sure, as many people are going to have their own views and theologies of the Trinity. Somebody else will get that, don't worry. Also, we'll be discussing Christ and the church and the role of husband and wife. Now, the chapter is actually entitled Man as Male and Female, and so it's going to be very interesting how we go into looking at that chapter and discussing it. In the weeks to come, we'll talk about equality and importance, in personhood and importance, man and woman being equal before God and before God's law, and we're going to talk about that because that is a controversial point. Also, as we move on, one of the most lengthy points, probably, of our chapter will include differences in roles between men and women, and we may take a couple weeks to go through that. And Section D is simply further considerations when it comes to understanding man and woman and the roles that man and woman have. Again, I expect this to be a very exciting and passionate Sunday school. I want to encourage you to be there, and I want to encourage you to be there and ready to start at 9:30. We are going to stay in the sanctuary for the time being, for reasons we will discuss in class, but it is important for all of us to be there and ready to begin at 9:30, and that means get your coffee and your donuts and your biscuits and whatever else prior to the start of class so that we can have the full hour to begin. Or rather to study. So I'm looking forward to a great Sunday school. Thank you so much for checking out the video, the recap of what we did. God bless you for being there with over 30 people. It was exciting, and I hope to see God bless us as we continue to grow, and I expect that He will. Have a great week. God bless you, and may you live for Christ this week as your identity is that of a Christian. Until next week, God bless.